What's going on, guys? Welcome to Orange Forum video today. We're going to be talking about some draft prospects. One in particular that I'll just be talking about. I'm going to do one per video. And this video, I'm going to be talking about defensive end Aidan Hutchinson from the Michigan Wolverines. I've been wanting to do this video for a while now, and why not do it now after the game that this kid just had beating OSU, Michigan dismantling OSU over the weekend. Now this is a 6'6", 270-pound kid, 4 years at Michigan. His stats are 148 tackles, 25.5 tackles for loss, 16.5 sacks, 10 pass deflections, and 1 fumble recovery and 5 forced fumbles. A homegrown product from Plymouth, Michigan. Went to high school in Dearborn. Stayed in the state of Michigan and played for the Wolverines. His dad, if you don't know who his dad was, in the early 90s, Chris Hutchinson, who played for the Wolverines, was a defensive lineman / kind of linebacker. But I believe too in the early 90s there, his dad had 11 sacks in a season, and I think he surpassed his old man in that game against OSU too. So that was a really nice thing. I'm sure his dad's really proud. That was the early 90s. If you don't remember Chris Hutchinson, I do. I remember he was a good football player. Went to I think he had a tryout with the Cleveland Browns. I believe. I don't think he was drafted. I could be wrong there though, but he was a kid that I think had a tryout for the Browns, but just either didn't make it or just retired early. I think he's a doctor now, his dad. I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% sure on that. But anyways, man, we all know who Aidan Hutchinson is. It's kind of a kid that threw himself into the conversation for the number one overall pick after his dominating performance against OSU in that really good OSU line. This is a good OSU line, not the greatest, not the best we've seen over the years, but it's a really good O line, and he made it. And he was dominating from start to finish. It's like he got stronger and stronger as the game went on. This was an O line at OSU that gave up 13. Their worst performance was giving up 13 quarterback pressures to a team. Don't know what that team was, but I read that. It didn't say what team that was, but that was their worst performance. Alone this past Saturday, Aidan Hutchinson had 15 quarterback pressures just himself. Alone. So, and as a team, I don't know what they had. They had a bunch of pressures that game, so that surpassed everything. Kid is just a dynamo at the defensive end spot. Now, he has missed some time. I believe it was I want to say it was his third year. He had a leg problem. He had a leg injury, right ankle to be exact. Had to have surgery, and I think he missed like a ton of games. I want to say he missed over 10 games because he had that ankle surgery and he was done for the year. This is a kid that is a fluent rudder, great body control for how big this kid is, being 6'6", 270, good athlete, long frame. Has played up and down the Michigan D-line, but is mainly, I think, a hybrid pass rush defender who can play with his hand in the dirt in a 3-point stance, a 4-point stance, or even stand up on his 2 legs. That's how versatile I think he is. And he can play a little bit inside. When he played inside with Don Brown's defense, he played a lot of inside, and he was inside, outside. He was both. I don't think he was used properly under Don Brown's defensive scheme, but now that they have a new D coordinator, and I can't remember his name, should have wrote that down, but I didn't. They've used him mainly as an outside defender, as an edge guy, as a defensive end with his hand in the dirt, or standing up on 2 feet. Now, and he's excelled. He's more of a bull rusher, but he will rip and dip O linemen. He needs to work on some of his pass rush arsenal, if you will. And then when he does something like that, these guys can reach out. These guys train. These guys have all kinds of availability to other defensive players in the NFL. who they can work with and learn that. He's not just a one-trick pony, though. He can rip and dip. He does use his body well. He uses his leverage well. He just needs to maybe add a couple spin moves, a spin move, a long arm move. He will get that down, and he's a workaholic. His work ethic is through the roof. It's a kid that you can really trust on. The nonstop motor is what really gets me too. It's like if you see a play going away from him, he just doesn't sit there and put two hands on the offensive tackle and just kind of go with the motions. He's trying to pursue, and he's trying to make a play all the time. But being smart about it too. You don't want to over pursue, but he has a nonstop motor, which is something that you like. And he's a great run defender. Being his size at 6'6", 270 plus pounds, whatever he is, he can lock up on an offensive tackle. He anchors well. He has good balance. He's good vision. He knows what to do. He's just a really superb defensive end. He's one of the top-notch guys coming out. He was a 4-star recruit in 2018. He had schools like Wisconsin, LSU, Boston College, and obviously he had some Michigan ties with his dad going there, and he wanted to continue that legacy, and he did. And he's catapulted himself into top 3 overall pick, I think, in this year's draft coming up in April. If you're going to player comp this kid, if you guys remember, I read this one and I kind of was like, okay, I need to see a little bit of tape of this. Patrick Kearney. If you don't remember who Patrick Kearney is, he played in the NFL, obviously, for like, I want to say 10, 11 years. 8 of them with the Atlanta Falcons. A really good defensive end. Kind of the same body type. About 6. Kearney might have been a bit smaller, but they're about the same size. The Kearney was about 6'5", 270. Hutch is about 6'6", 270. So it's like they're almost carbon copy. Kearney was a specimen, though. Not much body fat, from what I remember. And he was a sack machine. He played, I believe, 10, 11 years. He had like 80-something sacks. He had about 3 or 4 double-digit sacks. Went and played for Seattle for a bit, and had some, I think his first year as a Seahawk, he had like his best career ever, 14 and a half sacks, I believe it was. I kind of had to look at some highlights maybe of Patrick Kearney. I could see the similarity. There is some similarities there. I like to almost compare him to, he's kind of a mix between the Watt brothers and the Bosa brothers. Now, he doesn't seem to be as strong as Nick Bosa, okay? Doesn't seem to be as strong as Nick Bosa, and maybe not as fluid as Joey Bosa. He's kind of in between those guys, but he reminds me a lot of the Bosa brothers. And then he doesn't remind me of TJ Watt per se, but JJ Watt, he reminds me a lot of JJ Watt. A guy that uses his strength to get inside. JJ Watt was a really good inside pass rusher, especially in the NFL. When healthy, JJ Watt was one of the best. He just kind of reminds me of a mixture of the Bosa brothers and the Watt brothers. But I'm taking TJ kind of out of that equation. I don't think there's not much that reminds me of TJ. I think he reminds me more of a linebacker, like more of an edge outside linebacker guy that can get to the quarterback and make plays. I personally see Aidan Hutchinson as, he can do a lot of things. If you're going to play him at a 3-4, if you're going to play Aidan Hutchinson at a 3-4, I see him being the true end. With his hand in the dirt. You can even play him up. You can even play him standing up there if you want, because he's capable of doing that. But I see him being a part of that 3D lineman in a 3-4. Maybe every now and then switching out to the outside linebacker, which he probably could do. I don't see him much doing a lot of covering. Covering linebackers, covering tight ends. Not saying he can't do it, but I think he's more of a pass rush guy. And he's a really good run defender. That's how I kind of see him. I think he's going to be a really, and then if you get him in a 4-3, and something that we're not really running as a Detroit Lions team, I could still see I still see him on the inside, or on the D line playing some true D end. But he's capable of standing up, hand in the dirt, like I said, both hands in the dirt. So this is a kid that literally has gotten a lot of talk lately. And, you know, I'm a Michigan fan, obviously, but this is no Michigan bias. There will be a lot of criticism coming out, probably me doing this video, by some guys. I know who you are. I know some of you get upset because I talk about defensive players, which I'll never quite understand why Lions fans just get upset about that. But whatever, man. Whatever floats your boat, that's cool. I'm not going to stop talking about defensive players because we have a defense that's a little bit bend but don't break. You know, we played two bad offenses in a row with Chicago, and we played Cleveland. Two teams that don't really score a lot, really. Every now and then, you'll see Cleveland's put some points on the board, but they're bad offensively. And Chicago was a train wreck offensively too. And we've played well against those two bottom offenses, which is a good sign for us that we have a defense that's starting to develop. But that's all this defense is. It's not even close to being a finished product. You get a guy like Aidan Hutchinson, okay, I'm not saying they need to grab him number one overall. I'm just saying he's in the conversation. He's 100% in the conversation. This adds to a pass rush. We don't have a pass rush. I think we have 16 sacks on the year. I believe we were number 2. I think the Jets, I forget who, no, it wasn't the Jets. Who was the worst team getting to the quarterback? I don't know. It might have been the Jets. Who knows? But we are bottom of the barrel in that department, sack department, and it's something that we need to address in the off season. And like I said, a lot of people will think this is just a bias video because I'm a Michigan fan. It's really not, because this was a guy that I really liked coming into the year this year. He had I'll go year by year with this kid when he was at Michigan. He was a freshman, didn't play a lot, got into some games, made a few plays, yada, yada, yada. Second year came around, he actually won a starting gig. He had like 3.5 sacks. He had 3.5 sacks, 10 for tackles for loss, I believe it was. He was playing good football, still in that Don Brown defense. So I believe he was being utilized incorrectly. Then he came into his third year, and it was like it was supposed to be Hutch's year. He ended up getting hurt. Shattering that right ankle, whatever injury it was, and he missed the whole year. So he missed like 10, 11 games, I believe it was. And so he had a forgotten year. So came into his 4th year, and it was time, and he has exploded onto the scene. Exploded. He only came into this year with 3.5 sacks under his belt, though. So that's why a lot of people will say, well, this kid he's a one-hit wonder. He's not, because if you were paying attention to 2019, he just started coming on really, really well in 2019, and it looked like he was going to jump in 2020, but he ended up getting hurt. So this is not a kid that's just all of a sudden exploded onto the scene, like out of nowhere. Yes, he did explode onto the scene, but he was a guy that was really, really 4-star recruit, a really good football player, and he was developing as a football player, and it was supposed to be his coming out party in 2020, but he just ended up getting hurt. So, but he's a guy that the Lions truly have to keep an eye on. We're going to have that number 1 pick overall, and it's, there's no real true number 1. Is it going to be a defensive end? Is it going to be a quarterback? I only think those are the 2 options right now, unless they fall in love with some offensive tackle and get rid of Taylor Decker. But that's a whole other video that we're not discussing right now. So in my mind, it's defensive end or quarterback. So that's the video, guys. Aidan Hutchinson, Michigan Wolverines. Keep an eye on him. He's going to be in the discussion for the number 1 overall pick. Thanks for the video, guys. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the notification bell, get out my videos. And don't forget to like and comment. And let's talk about it. Let's talk about Hutch. Let's go get that Big Ten championship, big fella. Boom.